Okay, we're kick it. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the discussion. This is episode 370, and tonight I'm going to have Paulo Rubio join me, and we're going to talk about students' journey, what resonates with them as far as teaching styles, and how that will affect if they decided to teach. And I'm going to be bringing on Paulo Rubio right now. If you're joining us, tell us where you're watching from, smash that like button, and please jump into this conversation. Give us your own experiences through your journey and such, what we're discussing. Give us your own experiences through your journey and such. Hey there.
What's up, Dean? How's it going?
Give us your own experience. Appreciate you jumping on and doing this. I know I didn't give you a ton of notice.
Man, I'm on your show a lot. You called me. You always call me. Okay, I'm not trying to be like a camera hog here. But
No. You know what it is? When I saw that post of yours, it really sparked an interest and resonated with me because I got flashbacks to my own journey.
Mm-hmm.
And when you mentioned the drills and the memorization aspect to them, that was difficult for me. But if you told me just to act and react, I was able to kind of click in. But if you told me to stay in a pattern, much like you mentioned, I had difficulty staying in the pattern. I went on my own. It was a mess.
Oh, okay. I see where this is going. Okay. The Frank Zappa post.
Yes. That really, But we can talk about the other posts too.
Okay. Can I send you that Frank Zappa post so that people kind of know what's up, what to expect?
Sure.
It's basically about, it's about improvisation, really. It's about, you have it? Are you able to pull it up there, Dean?
I should. Yeah, you know what? I should be able to do it. Hold on here.
It's on my Instagram as well. It might be easier.
Let me check. We got. All right, hold on here.
I'll send you the link on Messenger.
Oh, perfect. Okay, that'll make it easy.
There you go.
All right. Yes, folks, if you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. We're just getting started. So, at any rate, like I said, I was getting flashbacks to like late 90s, like trying to follow along with these patterns from the Anasano blend and looking like an idiot.
I can't learn drills. I can't learn these patterns. And even something as simple like as a Sabayan or a Simbrata or a Hubad, depending on the system, there are so many, deviations and rules for your deviations. For Sinawali, there's heaven, earth, earth, and 7, 6. I can't get that reverse Sinawali. I don't know. I don't know how to do any of that stuff, and I certainly can't teach it. And I get that they're kind of important, but I can do the individual movements contained within the pattern just fine.
Yeah,
I just can't get the pattern. It just makes my head hurt. And I understand that if you're going to be an instructor, it might be a good sort of a good tool so that you can get a group of people to repeat the same thing and you can diagnose and correct. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it. What's going on? Your eyes are moving all over the place.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to pull this up and I'm not having much success.
That's okay.
But
I love playing with my mustache. Sorry.
Folks, if you want to get an idea of what we're talking about as far as what base this episode off, just go to Paulo's wall, and you're going to see the image of Frank Zappa.
Excuse me. Or my Instagram. Go to my Instagram. GN_Funker Tactical. It's the second to last post there.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you can't, you know what? Maybe I'll be able to.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Brave tab. Here it is. There we go.
Okay.
Let me share that.
Absolutely. It should be coming up.
Boom.
All right.
So I'm going to play that Frank Zappa post.
Okay.
Can you guys hear it?
Guitar has very little to do with what other people do on the guitar. Most of the other guitar solos that you hear performed on stage have been practiced over and over and over again. They go out there and they play the same one every night, and it's really just spotless. My theory is this: I have a basic mechanical knowledge of the operation of the instrument, and I got an imagination. And when the time comes up in the song to play a solo, it's me against the laws of nature. I don't know what I'm going to play. I don't know what I'm going to do. I know roughly how long I have to do it, and it's a game where you have a piece of time and you get to decorate it. Well, I'm specialized. What I do on the guitar has very little to do with what other people do on the guitar.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah. It was, again,
Yep.
you know, and I saw that, yeah, it really spoke to me. And, you know, I saw kind of earlier version of myself.
Yeah.
The trouble, you know, I was going through when you paralleled it to as far as how it was difficult for you, you know, those pattern or memorization oriented, as opposed to you just going out there and I'm going to risk it, wing it, and let's see what comes out of it, and I'll learn from the experience, you know, which is kind of how now it's funny. I'm able to digest memorization drills better now, but in the beginning, it was just god awful. It just, it just was like,
Yeah,
to the
it's
point where like I didn't want to go to group classes. I didn't want to go to seminars because I was so self-conscious. So I started doing privates just to get better acclimated, more comfortable, you know.
yeah. No, I get it, man. And it kind of leads on to this other thing that I thought we were going to discuss, which was I made a post the other day about how I think that it is my opinion, by the way, it is my opinion, and with no disrespect whatsoever, that stick fighters are better now than they
We can talk
ever
about
have.
that too. Yeah.
You know, that we tend to hero worship, you know, these legends, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's cool. And again, without any disrespect, I think today's stick fighters can absolutely wipe the floor with any of the legends that may have existed in the past. And that sounds kind of like, oh damn, but it's true. It's true. I believe it. But let's go back to what you want to talk about, which was
then we can touch upon your thing there. I mean that's so
yeah.
when you started, you know, getting to FMA deeper and you made it more of a priority to train as opposed to interviewing people or seeking out people's specialties and covering the world, so to speak. Was that your initial difficulty? Like when you started being exposed to drills, if they had a memorization element to it, you were struggling? Is that?
Yeah, that was it. No, from the beginning, I saw it as a barrier because I didn't go to, you know, day one class. I was just a guy who was kind of observing, and everywhere I looked, whether it's, you know, Pikiti Tersha or anywhere I looked, it was like I can't. It's hard to pick up what the heck is happening, and by virtue of a prolonged exposure, I started to get it. But I just think that FMA can be more accessible for these types of learners, you know, for my kind of learning, for your kind of learning. And I think here's the thing, you know, when you talk about GM Bobby Tabuada, for example, when he talks about the grouping system, he's like, GM Bobby talks about the grouping system as if he doesn't even like the grouping system, right? You guys have seen the videos that I've made with GM Bobby. He talks about the grouping system as a necessary evil, so to speak, to be able
for the Westerners.
Yeah, to teach, right? And he often talks about how there were no grouping systems when he was learning. There were no grouping systems. There were none of these drills and endless. I just think, first of all, I believe in the value of repetition, right? And this is where it all comes together, right? There's value in repetition, right? It's the mother of skill, right? This mindful repetition. So we need that. But then FMA has such a wide variety. It's got a big catalog of techniques, right? Even though anyone who's any good at FMA will tell you to just focus on the fundamentals if you want to be fight functional. To be fight functional, you need just the fundamentals. Get good at ones and twos and roof blocks and footwork, and, you know, really ones and twos and roof blocks will get you there. But anyway, going back to this theory that repetition is the mother of skill. FMA has a wide catalog of techniques. And so you needed flow drills. You needed these elaborate sequences to be able to repeat as many of those movements. And so out comes flow drills, out comes, Sinawali and Simbrata and high box pattern and all of these drills, because we needed a way, especially as it evolved and progressed and spread, right? These old masters who were they didn't know what they were doing. They were just trying to figure it out. Like when GM Bobby Tabuada started traveling and Angel Cabales and Leo Gaye, they were playing jazz. They were figuring it out as they went along. It's not like they had a manuscript of how to spread FMA to the West, right? And so, Remy Presas and his borrowing from some of the karate, methodology.
The traditional classical systems.
Right. And so we have to remember this. We have to remember that these masters weren't some, mystical, illuminated, all-knowing beings. They were just Filipino men.
They were trying to figure it out.
They were trying to figure it out, right? And so we can't be stuck in these ways and assume that they've done all there is to do, that they've innovated as far as it can go. And I think that's the mentality of a lot of Filipino martial arts instructors who learn from those guys, is that what Remy Presas taught me, this is the way, and there's no evolution to this. What Leo Gahe taught me, what Angel Cabales, this is the perfect way. And that's not the case. No way in hell.
Particularly as a student, not to pat myself on the back. I mean, one of the benefits of me training so many different systems, I didn't get glued to that because I was here, I was over there, and a lot of this wasn't a conscious choice. It was either political, or there was just a bad taste left in my mouth, or what have you. But if you just stay with this one person, if you never ventured out, it's very easy to think that way,
It is, Dean. And the benefit of you having moved and explored system to system to system is that you got the best of what these Filipino guys thought was a good way of teaching, right? Because GM Bobby might have thought the grouping system was the best way. Presas may have thought, let's start with double stick. That's a good way to learn. Leo Gahe might have thought, let's focus on footwork. So by traveling around and moving from system to system, you really get to find what about those systems suits you the best. And you can kind of create your own matrix, which is sometimes disallowed when people make you go, you have to study one system to its entirety before. No. Anyone fresh coming into FMA can definitely go, hey, man, I love the way the Dog Brothers are kind of like smashing it out with different weapons. I love the sophistication of KI. I love how Gat and Calis Illustrissimo explore measure. I love how Pikiti Tertia is aggressive. And you can put your own cocktail based on what you want FMA to be for you. But not often.
It's like, it's like make your own drink. You could put, you know what I mean? Like, you put whatever you want in that cup, you know what I mean? And maybe it'll be a good match, or it'll taste good, or maybe might not so much, you know what I mean? Depending on what you're putting in there and mixing up, Back to your whole thing, what you're saying, repetition, the mother of all. My only contention was that, and this guy called Tom Sotis, had I not been exposed to him, I don't think I would ever thought about it and all that. But is it the mother of all, or is it, in other words, let me see how I can articulate this. Okay, I want to get really good at Sombrata, when the low line comes in, when the mid line comes in, when the high line comes in, and all that. Yeah. But is that enough to go to the functional aspect? Is it?
No. And I think oftentimes when you hear something like, repetition is the mother of skill, the question is like, what kind of repetition? You don't just mindlessly repeat. Like repetition can to me means exposure. Like how many times can I expose myself to randomized chaos? Right? How often can I repeat or expose myself to opportunities within stick fighting that has me making decisions on the fly under stress.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by it. But I agree with you. It's not just repetition, man.
In other words, one of the analogies Tom uses, okay, you smash this rock 1,000 times. You got really good at doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that, within other contexts, particularly, with other fusion of changes, dynamics and all that, that's going to be the all telling, Comments are pounding in here. But not to get to them. So when you were going through these initial challenges at the beginning, when you went kind of from the observer to kind of being, I guess, lack of a better way, student, fusion of changes. What happened? Was it you said just mere exposure, constantly seeing these same patterns, pattern recognition got you more familiar or more comfortable with that and kind of segue into the student role?
When I first my first real exposure to FMA was Doug Marcaida, right? And right around that same time, I got to learn about FCS Kali, just as I think pretty early on when 200 had left aside. So he still had very much the aesthetic of like a bunch of knives and like cut his anus and all that,
blue worm,
yeah,
abdominal aorta, and
yeah. So those were my two initial exposures, right? Early FCS Sayok 200 and then Doug Marcaida.
Okay.
Both seemed inaccessible to me. Like, where do I start? You know what I mean? But as by virtue of creating content for, knives and being a content creator for the tactical community, like primarily focusing on, firearms, knives kept popping up. And I found that there was, man, when I started presenting Filipino martial arts to the Funker tactical community, people were like, what the hell is this crap? Right. But I just kept pushing it. I believe that there was something there. And, to this day, I meet so many people that are like, oh, it was your videos with Doug Marcaida that got me into FMA.
That got inspired them. And
I saw this interview you did with Tuhan Jared and Tuhan Ray and Doug Marcaida. But for me, the awakening was just stick fighting. It was just like, holy crap. I may have told the story a million times, but when I was there in the Philippines as a Filipino documenting, Jared and his PTTA thing, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go stick fight. And then I stick fought, and it was just this. I just loved everything about it. It made me feel like a man. It made me feel primal. It connected me. I felt it was accessible, like I can't be a real boxer or like a Muay Thai fighter, right? I picked up FMA when I was like 37, 38, still fresh, still a baby to it. But it was a concentrated journey, I feel. And so through that began my, reviewed the footage. Holy crap. I can't believe I had such a long puño, or because that first fight, I was disarmed, I was smashed, I was marked up, and then I fell. I was under sand and I fell. So it was just those things. It was like, okay, I need grip strength, I need better fundamentals, I need good distance management, I need good solid base, posture, and balance. And it was just reverse kind of engineering my failures, and that continues to this day. How I get better is really in not trying to hide where I suck. I suck a lot of things in FMA, man.
We all got
and just like golf, you have days. I have days, Dean, where I'm like, I can beat anybody. I can beat anybody in FMA. I can beat anyone. And then I have days where I'm like, I
I can't even do a number one.
I suck. I can't believe that rookie, like, absolutely. I can't believe he got that move on me. I think this is what people need to understand about the Filipino martial arts, right? It is like, it's almost like fishing. Like, you can't guarantee a good fishing day. Like, you can't, there's so much to this thing that you can have really, really sucky days. And that may have to do with emotion.
Yeah.
Just things are off. Maybe something you ate, a fight you had with your wife.
You just could be just distracted. I mean, you can't get that thought out of your head from last night that somebody or whatever it may be, and you're not going there with full clarity. And that's a lot of times what happens with me. Like I'm like, God, man, I suck today. What the hell happened? Why? And then, now 9 times out of 10, if it's not injury related, I was distracted. I couldn't zone in, So
and we go through like phases of inactivity because you can't be stick fighting all the time, not with any real intensity.
Now if you want preservation long term of the body,
yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's conducive then, okay. While you struggle with that and it wasn't, quote unquote, the best way for you to learn as a student.
Yeah.
What do you find in the majority I see to train FMA, because of the bigger systems, the majority is training these patterns. Good, bad, or indifferent. What do you think are the benefits of the patterns besides, pattern recognition and what? But what do you, like, in your opinion, what do you think some of the benefits are?
Well, if you have a base pattern that's quite easy to learn, like Mark Makita, shout out to his philosophy on Sombrada, for example. We have the same philosophy that I have with Sabayan, because the basic Sombrada pattern is like, you can learn it in 5 minutes. Theoretically, you can learn Sabayan in 5 minutes, but you just use it as sort of like a platform to improvise from. How I like to characterize it is that meeting place, right? It's that meeting place. So we know meeting place A, B, and C, low line thrust, high line slash, and then a parry. From those 3 things, we can get chaotic. We can try executing arm drags. We can try double tapping. And then when it gets too chaotic, we just go to a meeting place, and then we go back to the basic pattern. So
we go back to stuff.
Right. So a basic pattern, base patterns are amazing reset modules so that you can go to like crazy places. Also, here, okay. So a bit of an announcement, right? Like, I've been hesitant to teach, but a series of events lately over the past year, I've gotten to want to teach. And just a few days ago, I spoke with a club that I go to where my kid trains boxing, and I've taken jiu-jitsu there. Both my kids have taken jiu-jitsu there. And I'm like, hey, I think I'd like to teach knife. And they're like, yeah, for sure. So they were so down with it. So I said, look, wait, hold on. Let me go propose something. Let me go write it down, like maybe 2 classes a month. I'm not sure. And he's like, well, would you teach kids? And I'm like, let me figure that out. So I wasn't ready, but I was in that mode where I'm going to take the plunge, I'm going to start doing it, right? So now it's a little bit stressful for me because now I actually got to follow through with it.
You actually got to.
Yeah. But going back to what you said about how I might teach this class and how I might use patterns and use choreography, so to speak, to teach actual skills. So there are patterns that we know that exist. Like, we know circles, we know letters, right? We know shapes.
Right.
So if you put a knife in somebody's hand and then you go find your way to drawing a diamond, for example, and your piece of paper is right in front of you, and that's your writing edge. So I let them explore how they draw that diamond. Maybe they go this way, right? But it's a way to get a class moving based on a movement pattern that they may know, but is different from everybody, right?
Mm.
So if I'm teaching a group of, let's say, 15 people, I'll go, okay, I'll separate them into groups of 5, 5, 5, 5. And then I might go, group 1, I want you to spell cat, and I want you to shadow box, but you can only move your stick or your knife spelling cat. So then they're moving, right? They're spelling cat. Group B, your word is love, right? So they're spelling out love. They're all moving, and they're kind of shadow boxing with guidance, because sometimes shadow boxing when you're first learning is a little bit difficult. And then as we, so that's one way that I've found that might be a good way to sort of utilize known patterns.
Alphabito.
Yeah, to get people moving. And then, the class is going to be based on the Sabayan pattern. It's 3 movements. So once I get the whole class moving,
we should have a common language. You know what I mean?
That's it. It's a common language. And then it's going to be a whole lot of tracking games, like hitting moving targets, learning how to be good feeders. And also, because the gym is a Muay Thai gym, it's a boxing gym, and it's a jiu-jitsu gym, right? Like, I'm fully going to integrate the instructors there. Just empower
You're
them.
You're gonna have athletic folks there. I mean, you're gonna have, so with respects to drills, do you think they hit a ceiling, and why?
Oh, you mean like the rate of
I guess you could say in the shorter, when they do they max out?
Yeah, 100%. And I first learned this from Tuhan Jared, right? Where he says, because I told him one time, and by the way, like when I'm critical of Filipino martial arts, I'm probably most critical of the ones that I work closest with. So one day I was like, Jared, man, like, I don't believe in flow drills. This is years ago. Like, I don't believe in flow drills. I feel like once you know the pattern, you're not really working anything. And he's like, he said, this is on video. He's like, yes, flow drills have a rate of diminishing returns. Meaning to say, when you first learn a flow drill, you're like evolving very, very quickly. And then up to a point, you just plateau.
And then you plateau.
You're not learning anymore. You've reached the ceiling, right? Yeah. And you can try to go faster, and you can try to Yes. So there is a rate of diminishing returns if you're not empowered to kind of really understand what that.
But you know what though? Here's my example. They don't have to be. And here's my example. And I'm not saying I don't think a lot of folks do this. Some may do it, and I'll say I'm not claiming to know, but I'm just making a generalization. I'm not saying I'm right. Let's say I took sombrada, like 3 count sombrada. So we have the pattern down, like boom, here, return, like the whole pattern, 6 count, back and forth. What if you were to look at that and you wanted to, okay, I want to make this more dynamic and all that. How can I, so to speak, for this time, remove the temporary ceiling once we got the memorization down, even though we broke the numbers and all that, but it's still pattern recognition. And one of the things I thought about was, and I started doing with folks, because I used to hate those drills, was, okay, I want you to look at before, during, and after. Okay, I want you to look at where's your hit before, instead of getting this blocking, deflecting mindset, I want you to find the hits before, during, or after. And that I found, for me personally, rewarding, and it kind of it removed the ceiling temporarily and it got me thinking, like, can this be done with quote unquote other memorize, so to speak, flow drills?
Okay. What do you? I'm not sure. I understand. Are we just thinking about before, during, and after? Okay.
I'm talking about.
Let's make a flow drill right now. Let's make a very easy flow drill. Okay.
Okay.
Here's our flow drill. Here. That's our flow drill. Boom. Oops. Boom. Boom. That's our flow drill.
So let's just for argument's sake, let's say it's a loner weapon. You're giving me number 1, right? Okay. So maybe I'm going to go inside sweep. Let's say from Sabrada's sake, I'm going to check the hand because of the drill. I'm going to return from there. I'm going to return a plant shot or low line strike your hip or leg. You drop strike me, or you can do boom. After that drop strike, you give me a number 12.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to come over here and then I'm going to recycle back to you.
Right.
And now you do the inside sweep. You give me there, just for argument's sake, right?
Right.
So in other words, that drill is generally speaking 3 count, is something like that, where you'll put your check in hand and all that. The ceiling is once you get that, even though you can interchange numbers, it's pretty much you reach the ceiling.
Right.
What I thought was, okay, if some of my students like these patterns, how can I make it where I get a benefit out of it, but also they're going to get better at in the attribute sense. So my thought was, okay, set block by there. I want you to look for hits before, during the strike, or after.
Sure.
I hope does that help?
Well, it's inspired me to think about a way to make that teachable, right? Let's say
I had to do it just one-on-one, like just to see if it was even feasible, and it was. But this a group class, I've never tested out, so I can't say.
Let's say we were working roof blocks, or for argument's sake, right? We'll call this some sort of a roof block, however way you want it. This roof. Let's do it like this, right? A roof block, and that's what we're working on. This thing. And to engage that, we're going to hit them with an angle 1 or an angle 12 or whatever, right? Boom. I'll say this to a group of students. You get to hit them with any strike you want, but your second strike will trigger the roof block.
So maybe you might go at their hand, then you go to their head. They have to. Gotcha.
Right. Okay. So there's a decision making. They know that the second strike is going to be an angle 1, which is going to trigger your roof block. But they have no idea what the feeder is going to feed them before that.
Gotcha. Yeah. See, and like in other words, that's just a more condensed version of what I explained. But that's where I think where these quote unquote flow packages, whether they're 2 count, 3 count, 6 count, can be an aspect, can be put in there to make it more dynamic and more real time, so to speak. But I don't see a lot of folks doing that.
Well, because it's hard, man. It's hard. People it doesn't look good. It doesn't look pretty.
The aesthetic pleasing value of.
Yeah. But it also makes your students look like they suck. Because remember, just from that little thing that we did, right? We know the second strike is an angle 1 that's going to trigger the roof block, which is what we're actually working. But the first strike is anything else. So the likelihood of the roof blocker successfully defending that first shot before they go into the roof block, maybe 50-50, right?
Yeah, depending on the delivery, and I could, But look at anything like that. I dig, just because I think you're, obviously cliche, you're looking outside the box, but I think you're making more dynamic, just making a more dynamic drill.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. But then, like I said, it looks, messy. So like, imagine, let's look at this simple one, where the second strike is going to be an angle 1, which is going to trigger a roof block. But the first strike can be anything. Right? It can be any strike, which means it's going to necessitate any block, any strike, any block, and then angle 1 roof block.
Okay.
Both of those people are learning. Both of those people are strategizing. There's no pattern because they're actually in this mode
which is my next phase. How can both people get something out of this? An offensive or defensive perspective. Okay, I have to be non-talent man because I'm going during or before, whatever. Oh man, I need to make sure I'm going to go after. I need to make sure when he passes my center line, I'm going to drop that. The other side is like, oh crap, man, he's coming. Man, I got that hand evasion, or whatever response it calls for, pending the trajectory of the strike. But I think there's a way to do it. And like you said, in the beginning, it's probably going to look very ugly.
I think it's always going to look very ugly.
Or it could be, I mean, depending on how many movements are in there. If you,
right,
you know what I mean?
Right, exactly. I think 3 maximum, right? So this drill that we just created right now, which I'm sure there's going to be people who are like, yeah, we do that in our system. Like that's
I'm sorry, man. Everybody's gonna come out and say like we're doing it.
and they're probably right. They're probably right.
Like I said, I preface this in the beginning. I'm not seeing it, but that doesn't mean people are not doing it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, but
so this
but
thing,
yeah, that's
the second shot is a roof block that's triggered by an angle 1, right? You can put a before, which is strike anywhere before you throw the angle 1,
hand, wrist,
and then an after. So it's any shot, angle 1 roof block, any shot. And that's probably it. Beyond that, you don't really want to build beyond a 3 strike. In my opinion, you don't really want to build.
No, I think, like I said, because at the beginning, just before you get them acclimated and some of the rhythm and all that, it's going to be ugly. And like you said, it might always be somewhat ugly, depending on who's in there and their skill set and their perception and reaction. I guess you know what I mean. Or of course, like you said, you go more than 3. It's
I think beyond a 3 strike, 3 defense combination in FMA is a little bit too much. Maybe 4 for coordination.
You got the 3 count and you got the 5 count box. So the 5 count box I think would get really messy. Using that example, but the 3 count I think is manageable. I was just curious what your thoughts would be on that. You know what I mean? I guess to make.
But here's the thing.
Mundane more exciting, I guess. I don't know.
Well, my students, like if we could just do this one drill, Dean, forever, they're gonna get bored. Sooner or later, I'm gonna be like, hey.
That's the other thing too, man. You got a group of one-on-one's okay if they're vested. You know what they want. They don't mind putting the time but you get a group there with different personalities and all that. Now you got to deal with the boredom issue. How do you keep them engaged? Right.
Well, here's the thing. I think that if I'm going to teach this class and if this class grows, what I want to do is create an environment where we can compete so that, maybe like Justin, Patricio, Fernando at Combat Arts, like that will be a rival school. And my school students will fight his students just so that we have a way to measure our progress beyond drills. Because when we're competing, when we're trying to go against another human being, like that's a real metric. Like that's a real metric that we can go, I'm improving. And so they don't need, he's like, you're dead. So that they don't need like, oh, I know another drill and I know another drill. You know what I mean?
Right, but that's so funny. And you're touching on something because what is the measuring stick for a good chunk of our community? How many drills and how many grapevines off the tree branch Right. And if I know more than you, my stat is, depending on the system, is higher than you, regardless of what I could do in real time and all that. Yeah. And that's a good, that's part of this community.
Yeah.
But much to your metric, that squashes all that.
Yeah. So Justin, I'm going to make students, and our students are going to fight. Just like we do.
Yeah. I missed all these comments.
He's got to jump on me though. Justin, Combat Arts, man, they're good, and they spar a lot.
So, which is kind of the attribute development in drill, or I shouldn't say in drills, but I think attribute development can be put in drills that don't have it, that are more or less based on pattern recognition. What say you on that?
Sorry, say that again. Attribute development based.
So in other words, when you look at your Hubba, your Simbrata variations, your Sinawali, Heaven and Six, and low line, midline, high line. I think attribute development can be put in drills that are solely based on memorization and pattern. For like the example I just used was the 3 count Simbrata.
Yeah.
Think about Rubio.
Yeah, I think you can develop attributes from those drills. But here's the thing. Okay, here's a big one. Okay, there's a lot of Filipino martial arts instructors out there who will present a drill and they'll say this works on your timing, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. Doesn't work.
It doesn't. No.
It doesn't work on your timing at all. You know, and I think it was Chuhan Philip, who said, well, it depends on what your definition of timing is, right? My definition, well, not my definition, but when somebody says timing for Filipino martial arts, I think about combat timing, right? Not cadence, not rhythm, right? It's combat timing. And combat timing is you're trying to time something that you're generally unaware of based on a short time frame and a chunk of information, right? Like he's coming at me like this. I have some idea that I'm going to have to make a decision as to how I'm going to defend that and time my defense, right? So when people are doing like these drills and there's a cadence to it, they're not working on timing because the speed at which this attack, comes in and this attack comes in and this attack comes in, it's always that same thing. Whenever you see somebody like close their eyes when they're doing a drill, they're not working on timing
or they're having a conversation looking the other way and all that. How you working timing then? You completely I totally agree with you.
Your eyes are responsible for like 70% of the input that you receive in
of the perception taking in, perception and reaction, right?
So if your eyes are closed, how are you working on timing exactly? Like when people close their eyes and they go pop, 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 pop,
no, I know. Yeah.
That's not working your timing.
No.
You know when it's gonna come, right? There's no right, but it can be argued that he's timing the cadence. Okay, fine. You win that argument. But when we're
I think Tuan Phil said it best, like, well, what do you mean by timing and how are you defining timing in relation to this? You know what I mean? But I that whole closing of the eyes thing is you're talking and you're not looking.
Right. Now, before the Wing Chun people get mad at me, closing your eyes when you're rolling in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's sensitivity.
Exactly, right? That's not timing.
Yeah.
Just because you're right. I just don't want to get misunderstood.
Yeah, that like in grappling. Can you close your eyes in grappling? Of course you can, because it's sensitivity. In that fact, I found it beneficial to really try to get in that element of feeling and all that. You know what I mean?
I think I saw a video of some guy blindfolded and he was like pop, 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 pop with sticks. I'm like, all you're showing me is that you and your uke have memorized that so well that you can do it with your eyes closed.
You can do it with your eyes closed. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, no argument. This is why it's always these conversations are enjoyable.
I like to be
okay. With relation, back to your journey. Okay, now that obviously, you're in PTK, you're under Tuan Jared, you obviously have seen all their systems and trained them, experienced them, and all that. Where do you think your maturity is now, as far as all this? Like, I mean, you've been exposed to a lot. I mean, so like, where do you define yourself now?
I'm very cautious about questions like that because I've always thought that I was, that I knew what I was doing, and then every year that passes, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know what I was saying. So I'm very cautious to be like overly confident, but
not confident, but just more aware of where you stand today as opposed to 24 months ago. You know what I mean?
I had a really interesting validation experience when I was at the SHOT Show. So for those of you guys who don't know, SHOT Show is the shooting, hunting, outdoor, and tactical, SHOT, shooting, hunting, outdoor, tactical. And it's the biggest, gun tactical show in the United States, right? Like you can buy knives, you can buy every gun, you can buy missiles for your warship, and this place is like full. Anyone who's been to the SHOT Show know. It's like where, everyone's tatted up and Navy SEAL, United States Marine. Like it's just like a beard and tattoo and just like, real manly men just doing like really manly thing. It's amazing. I love it. And it's the biggest gathering of these people in the United States.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah. Roberto Pagan, he's been there. He's been to SHOT.
This is annually?
Yeah, and annually, an annual event in Las Vegas, and like $1 million deals are made. Because like all of these gun stores from the United States come over there, and then they make a deal directly with Glock or Smith & Wesson or H&K, right? And it's a lot of people fly from all over the world to go to the SHOT Show in Las Vegas. It's a drink fest, also, man. Like the parties.
Las Vegas.
But all
there's a bunch of other fests too.
Like 511 Tactical holds parties and Glock party and Cry Precision party.
Yeah, you got the casinos there and all kind of extracurricular activities.
So, and here, this was my validation, right? Because over the past year, I've really, or longer, I've really tried to focus on myself and what I may present as a methodology that can be authentic to who I am. Presenting more content on my Instagram. Like I've represented so many people over the years: Doug Mercado, Fred Mastro, Ryan Hoover, Eli Knight, Instructor Zero, and the list goes on and on and on of these people that I've represented. And the reason that I am able to represent them well is because I understand their craft. I understand the sniper craft from Call 966. I understand, pistol fundamentals from Instructor Zero. I understand jiu-jitsu from Eli Knight, so on and so on and so on. This year, Dean, right? Like every year I go there, sometimes I'll get stopped and people might ask for a photo. I'm like, hey, you're that Funker Tactical guy. Like you're the guy behind the camera. You make those videos. Let me take a selfie. And it's always weird for me. Every year it's been, oh, you're that Funker Tactical guy. But usually people would be asking selfies from the people that I'm walking with, like Instructor Zero, Doug Mercado in the past. This year, for the first time ever, I got stopped by, some really checked out dudes like who have done things in war, in law enforcement capacities, in executive protection, and they're like, "Hey, you're that knife guy. You're a GN," and then they would cite videos that I've created, and they'd be like, "Hey, we're teaching that now," or "We want you to fly into St. Louis and teach our tactical combat. We want you." It was really awesome because these are the kinds of people that sometimes they comment, but it's mostly private messages, or they don't engage in the in the commentary. But I felt validated that all of this like artsy fartsy attribute development and authentically presented stuff is reaching the right audience, because I'm not a soldier, right? Like I'll wear my army t-shirt, right? Because a friend gave this to me, I'm not a law enforcement guy. I've never done anything super cool like that. But to have these people, despite my saying like, hey, this is just art, this is just to help you with your coordination. They're like, I get it. I get what you're doing. I see what you're doing. We want you to train our guys here. So I'm like, oh, cool.
Awesome. Yeah. That's fantastic. You know what I mean?
So that's where I think, just to answer your question, I think I'm in a better place than I used to be. I think I'm constantly learning new things, but I think also, to take the lessons I've had in the past about being wrong and not being so sure, I carry all those lessons with me moving forward.
Yeah, but that means that's growth, right?
Yeah. No.
We all get there different ways or different experiences, and you know what I mean? But overall, at the end of the day, it comes down to the end result is growth, right?
Which, by the way, like when is there going to be like the Franco method,
Actually, it's kind of starting. Jay, a couple guys said, "Look, man, why haven't you create your own system?" And I said, "Because I'm too damn busy with this damn channel and damn other things." And finally, I've always had it, um, and and now a couple guys, I said, "Okay, fine. If you guys want it, I'll give it to you." However, though, to be honest, I don't want to be the person that's flying around. I really don't. I don't want all these reps under me. I really don't. A couple people that I know that would generally appreciate it and would really do it with integrity and hard work, and that's kind of folks I want. And these two that did express interest thus far fit that criteria. So it's a good so it's a starting point. Now, if it were to manifest and grow to a few others that were similar mindset to these two, sure.
So here's a suggestion, and I think this is not just a suggestion for you, but a suggestion for other people out there. Forget about creating the whole curriculum. Forget about having, study groups and building up your instructor cadre and having this broad curriculum. Forget about that stuff. How about this? What if I said to you, Dean, I got a group of 8 pre-deployment special forces operators, and their mission is based on or as a criteria for the mission, they need to be covert, right? It's not like an 8-man unit fully, tacked out and geared out. And I just need them to be able to improve their ability to parry incoming strikes. That's it. Just to
parry cover strikes,
right? Because they're going to be walking in built up areas that's going to be crowded. You don't need to teach them awareness because they have that. But when a knife all of a sudden comes their way or a baseball bat, I need you to improve their ability to parry and then access their weapon. And so that's all you got to focus on is you got to build attributes to be able to do that. So I think that's a way that everyone could have something to offer.
Yeah, as many like a specialty course within.
Right.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
So another one might be, okay, Dean, I got a group of relatively untrained, mixed bag men and women from a small town, and there's been a recent,
increase in
like hammer attacks, right? Like I want you to be able to just teach them solid, perpendicular, fortified blocks or structure.
Yeah. I can like make it very specific into a specific audience what they want.
Yeah. But you already have like a broad base of knowledge that you could probably put this stuff together.
Yeah, it is, and this is my own, and I hold myself fully accountable to this. It's my own detriment and fault. Sometimes I get so caught up in our stuff that I just don't put attention where it could be or should be, as far as personal achievement or development. So maybe just too unselfish. I don't know. You know what I mean?
But I mean, like you could have a 2-on-1 seminar, and that's just all you focus on. I've been focused on just like knife deployment from appendix, hip, concealed, 2 layers, off a teep, off a slap.
No, right. I got it. Yeah, no, I definitely, and I have more than just a 2-on-1, of course. I mean, I got. It's just that's what people ask. Let me see your, I like your 2-on. Can you see it? Can I see it? But I definitely have other. Yeah, I have a whole. But I guess GM Poggi, when he gave me that certificate, it had the 2-on-1 language in there. Never ceased, and I can't get it off my back.
Oh man,
I can't get that label going. GM Poggi. I mean, when he puts a label on you, man, it
sticks.
Stuck there, And either bad or indifferent. Yeah. You just gotta roll with it.
Dean, can we can transition for a second. I'd like to ask you a question. Like, and this is the
Sure.
thing that I brought up. And like, just strictly talking about like stick fighting. Do you think we have better stick fighters today than?
It's funny when you brought, and I thought you were, like you said, you made it very clear. As a matter of fact, and I have to be honest with you, I met with Burton today.
Yeah.
And I asked Burton, I said, look, and I gave you full credit. I said, look, he put in his post, he made it very specific. He said he was just his honest opinion. He didn't, very open-ended and that. And I asked Burton, and he kind of similar to me, was like, based on the athletes being bigger and stronger and all that, and stick being very power oriented, and the bigger man, power, speed. I mean, those obviously come to light immediately. But then when I try to be very, look at the whole totality and everything. But then when I look at the older cats who didn't have gear, and their technique, their movements, their perception, reaction, their measure had to be on point, man. You're talking about hard, ironwood sticks and whatever. No, obviously, no room for mistakes,
Right.
So it's a compelling argument. But if I had to, like, if you put me on the spot today, pick one, I'm probably going to go with today's guys, because I don't have nothing to reflect to back then. I hear the stories.
Right.
You know what I mean? So hopefully that answers.
Okay. Well, if I may, right?
Yeah.
I wrote that today's FMA stick fighters would wipe the floor with any of the legends that existed in the past. And again, please, I mean no disrespect, and this is only an opinion, which hopefully at this point in FMA, after all the crap that we've been through as a community,
and I don't think anybody took
these disagreements. So
yeah,
my points were, again, when I'm talking about sword, we're talking about stick fighting.
No, right, and
right?
You made that very clear. Yep.
Right. I said today's stick fighters are bigger, stronger, faster. The most important thing is we readily have access to information relating to more systems, more techniques, more tactics. There's access to sports science and nutrition, and there's more opportunities for cross training and workouts and, athletic attribute development. And the two super important things is that we have the instant ability to replay our performances and diagnose it because of the prevalence of recording equipment, right? Which, according to Mark Denny, Top Dog, Eric Knaus, Knaus, maybe, it's one of the most important factors into the development of fighters is the fact that we can watch where we sucked and
our mistakes
and right. And this is kind of how I've done it. I figure out where I suck and I create wacky drills to make me suck less at those things. The second biggest thing, or maybe tied with that, is that we have today a much, much bigger pool of competitors and training partners.
Look at Europe.
Oh my God. Right. So and also safety equipment. Safety equipment is a big thing because we get to work
without being injured next day, train. Yeah.
Right. And so I wanted to address the counterpoints because I think the counterpoints have some degree of validity to them. And when I said this, anyone who might have disagreed noted three things. One, why the old fighters are better than today's fighters. One is that they lived a hard life, which means they have a stronger mentality.
That's fair.
Okay. Two, not only did they live a hard life, but they worked a hard life. Hard labor.
That's fair too.
Chopping all day, you're chopping sugarcane
or bamboo or whatever it may be, right? Yeah.
And then the third point, which is you mentioned, is that they were stick fighting with no armor, with no safety.
Right. So their measure, everything had to be acute, man. You're talking about,
Right. So now let me debunk all of those three counterpoints.
Uh-oh.
Because I don't believe them to be valid at all. They sound like they're valid, but I don't actually think they're valid. And oftentimes these points sound good, and they may be valid points, but irrelevant to the question. And so
Okay.
again, so let's examine them. One is living a hard life, right?
Okay.
About, that it crafts this sort of like mentality. We're talking about stick fighting. Okay.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to stick fight you and I see your stick and it's a hard stick, right? And I'm not just like some, goofy hippie snowflake. That's all the motivation that I need to have the right mentality to want to beat you. So yes, mentality of living a hard life has so many benefits to all facets of life. But when it comes to this moment in stick fighting, like my mentality, your mentality, squaring up is going to be equal. We're going to want to smash each other to bits. We're going to want to win. Right. So having this hard life does not make you any more skilled in this moment. And really, we're
talking skill, but what about just overall adversity, handling adversity?
But that's fine. But we're just talking about stick fighting. So the fact that maybe I was in World War I.
Right.
But maybe I was born in poverty right. Like maybe it's 2023, but I grew up in extreme poverty with no food. My father left when I was 5. My mother died when I was 6. I grew up on the streets, right? Like that mentality, that fortitude matters in every aspect of life. But we're going to talk about just having a fight right now, you and me, right? That's not going to necessarily give me a quantifiable edge versus somebody who is like, okay, yeah, I didn't have a hard life, but I fucking trained for this. And we're gonna go.
I train for this, and I see your club coming at me.
That's right. Like how many times have we seen like mothers who live in suburbia ferociously defend their children against danger? Somebody who lived a comfortable life.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen regular civilians in the face of danger do extraordinary things? It's built in us when we're confronted with danger.
Right?
So while living a hard life, of course, it's beneficial, but not as much as people would like to think, and certainly not to this question. Now, the next thing, working a hard life.
Hard life.
Oh, like their grip strength is strong because and they're powerful because they've been chopping sugar canes all day. Okay, grip strength is one thing. Great. Who do you think would have better grip strength? Somebody who chops sugarcane all day, or an Olympic gymnast who has to hold on to these rings for dear life, or a jiu-jitsu fighter?
Grabbing lapels all day and
yeah.
I mean, with those two specific examples you gave, those guys are up there. The general norm,
sure. But what I'm saying is that all of these advantages to the old guys are negated because we have them now too. It's not like we don't have opportunities to develop grip strength.
No, the opportunity, you hit the key thing. The opportunity is there.
Sure. But we're talking about not in general, right? Like we're not talking about.
We're talking about somebody who knows what's coming to train for it.
Versus the greats now. And I think the greats now has a distinct advantage. And I think the greats now.
If I had to pick one, yes. I would pick today. Yeah.
Right.
The last one, though.
Okay, the last one.
Go here. Let me hear your last one. Go ahead.
Stick fighting with no armor. Right?
Right.
And you say, yeah, they have to be so much more refined. Okay. And you also mentioned hardwoods, right? Like ironwood, kamagong.
I'm just saying, well, quote unquote, the war stories you hear, what they were used, Bahi and the kamagong,
So let me ask you this. How often do you think, and I don't care if you're a Viking, a Filipino in the jungle, or a guy today, how often do you think that you can stick fight with kamagong in a year?
How often?
Yeah.
I don't think very often.
In a lifetime, full on hard.
No, absolutely no.
Maybe once or twice before you get so damaged that.
Yeah, depending on how much. Right. Yeah.
I think we have this illusion that the greats back then were constantly stick fighting with Kamagong. They weren't with no armor.
No, I'm not suggesting they were. Again, depending on who you listen to, who you believe to, these death matches, which a lot of times didn't go to the death. It was the term death matches, and a lot of times they were the first hit. Okay, we're good. Shake hands, done. You know what I mean?
They didn't happen as frequently as our fantasy.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think the folklore sometimes when it made it over here to America just got, you know what I mean?
So it's like, they were stick fighting without armor. They did it maybe 4 times in their lifetime.
Maybe the festival, and again, you know, right, the festivals. But my only argument to that, and I do agree with you on the first 2 points that you brought up in your examples there. My only argument with those is that I guess the whole aspect of consequence. If they didn't have the gear we had, or they had to put socks on, whatever they did, makeshift stuff they used, you know, if they did, you know, obviously I don't know the answer to that, only what I've heard. I guess my argument would be is that because of the consequence and the minimal gear or no gear, depending on, is that just the acuity to measure and range and all that. That's the only thing sticks, my vision martial arts. It's the sticks is the topic.
Again, I get that and I respect it. Let me ask you this question. Do you think race car drivers are better back then because the likelihood of dying in a car crash is higher?
Were race cars back then better than today?
Were race car drivers better back then because if you crashed in a car, the likelihood of you dying was higher.
Was greater than today, of course.
Do you think we have better pilots and race car drivers today? Yeah, I do. Even though it's more dangerous, like they had less armor, less protection. So I get the benefit of it, right? But it just logically, when we really dig deep into it, it doesn't make sense to me.
I see, and I see your argument. I do, and I'm not disagreeing. I'm not. I mean, here's the thing, though. I saw your post and have a discussion, and some of the comments that bothered me, you could see the emotional tie to some of their instructors.
I know,
and they weren't even looking at your question. They were going to this emotional, subjective.
Yeah, it's tough,
man. And that bothered me. It's like, God, I'm thinking like, man, of all the posts that come in FMA discussion, and I even mentioned these 2 words thoroughly, like, please leave out the subjectivity and emotional attachments. Please try to be objective as humanly possible. And people just still cannot do it, or don't even make an attempt to do it.
There's this beautiful function called turn off notifications. And I do it very quickly. So people can like write, and because I know I'm going to be attacked. I don't need that negativity in my life. I'm just asking a question here. I'm stating an opinion, right? and people are like, they love their old masters so much, and they so desperately want to believe that they were like really, really special.
And I appreciate that to a degree.
I get it. And again, I don't want to hurt their feelings. This is why I don't want to argue with them. Here's another thing, right? It was easy to be special back then. It was easier. Who else was doing FMA? Right?
Geographically speaking, man. I mean, right. Who else was doing it?
Yeah. There's a guy, and I don't, maybe he doesn't like me, but just to pick a random guy that I love his movement, like Cody Chilson, FCS Paulo. That dude moved.
Okay, I've heard the name. Okay. Yeah.
That guy, if that guy was a Filipino back in the 60s, that would be like the legendary FMA guy. That's one guy from one system. You know what I mean? Ernie Lake. Like there's, you know, like the frequency that even Justin Patricio Fernando spars, like the amount of knowledge that Joe Apostol had, like, because we have so many of these people who would have otherwise been legends when there were less of them. Yeah. I think people lose sight of this.
Because of the emotional subjective attachment.
Yeah, there are so.
That's the thing that bothered me about some of these, because I went down through the comments. I will say this though, if you didn't see it, no, I didn't see anybody. I didn't see any attacks, name calling, all that. So the majority were pretty good. They just some had to bring those attachments in there, and they really didn't answer the question due to that. You know,
Think about this. Let's imagine for a moment, okay, that Mark Denny
yeah,
wasn't the founder of the Dog Brothers.
okay,
Let's imagine his name was Marcos Dionisio, and he
yeah,
was this gigantic Filipino bearded guy in the Philippines who all of a sudden came out with a skill set that he demonstrated in his prime. And he called it, you know, Denny Arnis. That guy would be an absolute, he's a legend now, but you get what I'm saying? Like somebody like a Mark Denny,
no, I do,
Hot
I
Dog,
do,
or
I'm
Benjamin
totally.
Breaker, Lonely Dog, like if these guys were Filipino in the 60s and they were showing the kind of skill
Oh, they'd be
we're showing
studs.
today,
They would be studs.
yeah, there would only be that, let's just say.
Yeah.
So people lose sight, right? And they want to hold on so desperately to the fact that their masters were some like mystical nirvana reaching like amazing, you know, FMA god. That and here's the thing. I was having a conversation with Tim Hartman yesterday about this.
Who's that guy?
The Guy Fieri of FMA. Dean, you know, today, right? Like you meet these students who just like idolize their masters, like students today. Right. And there's a bit of that in us. Like you think Tom Sotis is the man, and you think
In some regard, no, with his methodology and context to it, yeah,
right.
That's fair.
So, but we're logical, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are other students who just like today where they just believe everything that their master says, right? Because they love them, it's their only exposure. And sometimes we look at them like, man, you're a little dogmatic, you're a little blind. Mm-hmm. And what I told Tim Hartman was like, Tim, you were that guy. You were that guy. You
respect to Remy.
Yeah. You were that guy with Remy when you were young and youthful and enthusiastic.
Sure.
Right? Arnold Narzo, Jared Wihungi. When they were young and enthusiastic,
I was that guy.
You were that guy. I was that guy. Right? Datu Kelly Warden was that guy. We were all youthful, and we so desperately wanted to believe the totality of what our masters tell us. We don't often see our masters today as at one point just being an enthusiastic youth diving into martial art. But we were all that guy, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, again, I'm just like, I'm still observing FMA from, the 30,000 or 10,000 feet up in the air and just observing like all of these masters that we glorify today. We're just.
Yeah. So, you kind of just touched on something. Like if you look at like, not to digress here, but there's so many aspects to this art. There's the culture. There's this, like you just mentioned this, revealing of like these all-time greats and like, they're not letting anybody dare speak, negatively on behalf of them. And then there's the artists versus the functionalists, and then the systems, and then the politics. And then the weapon modules. I mean, look at the not just the diversity, but all the facets that are in there. And then sometimes I wonder, like, well, Jesus, of course we got politics, man. I mean, look at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
It's like, how on earth can we get rid of it? It's like we're freaking drowning in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like by anybody's best efforts,
In my high school drama improv teacher, she always had this saying, right? Like whenever we would present a script or a play or a skit or something, she always said, raise the stakes. Raise the stakes. Even if the scene is you walking to go get bubble gum, right? Like, how do we raise the stakes? Oh, maybe it's because you're about to go into a meeting that is really, really important, and the bubble gum is your coping mechanism, right? So there's always a way to raise the stakes, and the most mundane thing. Maybe I need to go drink milk, right? And then we raise the stakes by, telling a backstory about how, we have stomach issues and we need the milk. So this is the thing with the Filipino martial arts. Every bit that you mentioned, we, whether consciously or subconsciously, raise the stakes of its importance. And so when we meet resistance, we're not just talking about whether or not a witik works. Like, we're not talking about whether inside line versus outside line. We've raised the stakes. How dare you disrespect my master? How dare you disrespect my system?
Who sometimes are not even alive,
right?
And the person's third generation removed.
Yeah, and so I think it's important. Sometimes let's not raise the stakes, and especially going back to this conversation we were having about who do I think are better stick fighters, the old legends or the people today? Okay, we can discuss the individual elements of that without going, what
you're disrespecting Jose Caballero?
Yeah,
who did the death matches,
right? Anshong Bacon, like no, let's not raise it.
He broke people's backs.
Yeah, let's just have a discussion, right? So anyway,
I know, and that's just some of the responses that I was seeing in there. They were naming these guys who they don't even know whether they did or didn't do. It's based on what they were told. You know what I mean? They weren't there. Yeah. It just drives me nuts.
That was the first one too for me. Was like when I questioned, you think he really, you think he really took a nail and hammered his foot to the floor so that he can fight 360?
And he was on a table while his uncles were putting out the feet, and he was. Yeah. I mean, maybe, but does anybody know for sure?
But it was like, are you calling him a liar? I'm like, no, whoa. I'm not calling, your FMA daddy a liar. I'm just saying, like, I have questions. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm just saying I have questions, and I would like to see if there's validity to what you're saying, or do you have evidence? And I know it's so I know we did, but it was great stuff. I do have a question though. With respects to you, getting out there teaching, is your ultimate goal? I shouldn't say ultimate. Maybe that's not the correct word. Will one of your goals of importance be functionality with your students? And if so, what if you have a student who really doesn't care, but they're getting off the couch and getting to your class?
So I'm kind of thinking in different directions. I'm trying to differentiate between functionality and practicality, and based on one's definition of that. Like, if my life is in danger, right, I would want something that is functional and practical. Okay. If my life was not in danger, I would want something that is practical, which means health, enjoyment. Those things are practical.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's so much merit and importance to them for the guy who gets him off the couch. Will you tailor to both?
Yeah, I have to. And in fact, in some ways I'm tailoring to neither, right? Like, my mandate is to express an art, to share an art, and to kind of impart another avenue for people to discover who they are. And that's it, right? Like, in this way, I can teach a soldier next to a cop, next to a
comic book artist.
Right. Like, I will empower them to go, hey, yeah, this is an angle one, and we're trying to hit each other with sticks, but you need to find a way to make this relevant for you. Right. And it's not up to me. I'm not trying to do that.
I think that's the way to do it.
I think it makes sense.
Make this relevant to you, what speaks to you, and
yeah.
Yeah.
I think when people invest in something like a martial art, especially one with knives, is the people want it so desperately to be the thing that they want it to be, right? That they're not taking accountability to make it what it could be.
Which hence my kind of the title for the show, like, your journey.
Yeah.
Make it.
I wanted to say something about that poster too. It was something like, I don't fit in and I don't want to. I didn't write that. You wrote that.
I did write that. I'll take full credit. I'll take full credit for that.
I'm like, we all want to fit in.
Yeah, but we kind of touched upon that in the beginning, where some of these bigger systems, you got these folks doing, but you don't know if they like it or not because they haven't been exposed to anything else. So they're just kind of going down this line. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where that was supposed to.
But the thing is, people say, Paulo, like, you stir the pot, or you're always saying controversial things, and I'm just expressing myself. I'm just expressing an opinion, and they're not controversial because I said them. They're controversial because they're not being said enough by more people, even though we do talk about these things.
Yeah, and I think I don't think they're I don't think they're controversial. I think the folks that view it as controversy or you stirring up the pot are those who just lack an objective lens. I in my opinion, they just it rattles something within their belief system that they don't like or they don't want to hear, or it touches a nerve, or basically something they're lying about, and that they have. I think it's such a personal thing with that. I think it has absolutely nothing to do with your message or how you present it. I think it's totally on them. That's my 2 cents.
I appreciate it. But
I think it's their weakness in something, or I don't know. You know what I mean? They're feeling.
There's a lot of
exposure.
Yeah, like, there's so many amazing things about, like, the Filipino culture that permeate through, like, the Filipino martial arts, but some of it's not really helpful. Right? And, like, one of those things is, like, we can't have these open discussions about things for fear of insulting someone.
Yeah, but we're having more and more.
We're having more and more. Yes, we are.
And I think that's what it is. I think somebody's just got to go out there and just do it, which I've been trying to do. And you've been a part of a lot of them. And I think that's where it's got to start. People have to see it. And I think the more and more it becomes common, then I think it'll be less and less viewed as negative, or, parts of the community feel like they're being challenged or questioned, or,
And the cool thing is, like, I think when I first started doing it, they're like, who is this new guy? Like, some social media Instagram guy just saying these things for, like, views and likes. And, I still get those comments, but when they actually dig into what I've done and the fact that I'm still here, like, they can't really say those things about me anymore.
They can't. Right.
Yeah, they can't.
That's what I mean. You see what I mean? It's not your message, or it's them. I really do. Whether it's jealousy, whether it's they're not happy with themselves or their achievements or their quote status in life, or where they think they should be, or where they're not be. I think it's totally to do with them.
Yeah.
I don't think it's I think it's just a reflection on them.
For sure.
What we got here? So, when would you refer a student to somebody else? What would
right away?
As soon as they walk in the door,
I'm not your guy. This is what I'm going to teach you. I'm going to refer. Yeah, that's been my mandate. And I do that all the time. I get messages all the time. Hey, I'm in Alabama. Who should I train with? Hey, like, where can I get in-person training? Or sometimes people look online for training. I just happen to really love the PTTA online course because I made those videos. Like, I know how good they are. But in the future, I would like to make other people's online courses, and I'd like to see how other people do it. I just can't recommend others right now, right? Yeah, I need to take, but you know what? Like, I would recommend in a heartbeat Tuhan Jack's Zoom classes, for example, because I right, like, I know what that's like. I haven't done enough. But yeah, I would recommend people right away to other people. I don't want long-term students, man. I do not want long-term students. Like,
I'm going to be with you for 10 years. No. I'm going to get it.
No, it's going to be like the parenting style. Like, okay, 18 years, except, you know.
All right, man. Right now, you should be having a lease signed.
Yeah, no, I don't want to have like my number one guy who's been with me for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
That is, it just, I don't like it. And no disrespect to anybody who is that or has that. It's just not for me. I don't want to be daddy.
I constantly tell my folks, man, go see other people too. Like, I don't have all the answers, and you know,
teaching martial arts will never be my like primary source of income, right? Like, I just don't. I don't want it, dude. But then again, I don't know, man. Maybe that will change, and then I'll be.
Yeah, you might get it. I tell you, you might get in there, and I tell you, it might be the thing. It might be your calling that you didn't realize, and you might end up loving it.
Maybe. But as of now, I do not want long-term students.
Yeah,
I don't.
So, Joe, wow, man, this has been, as always. Anything that you wanted to speak on that perhaps I overshadowed, or hostile takeover?
No.
I'll keep coming up with other themes to bring you back on, if you don't mind. I've always will think of other subjects to talk about to kind of knee-jerk the community. You know, and a lot of times your posts have something to do with that, but
you should moderate more debates, man. Like, just nice debate. Like, if somebody out there hears my opinion and want to talk about it, I'm so open to that.
Yeah, you know what you do is you get on your, if somebody wanted to speak to you on something, a few subject matters, I'd be more than happy to bring you and that person on here and say, look, let's hash it out, man. Let's hear both of you. Let's hear both of your lenses, your viewpoints, and let's do it, you know?
Yeah. Oh, look at this, dude. Look at that. Can you see that?
What's that?
What that is? So you've heard of challenge coins, right?
Challenge coins?
Yeah, you know what challenge coins are?
I don't.
No? It's all right. I have a bunch of challenge coins here. So here's one from the raid unit.
Okay.
Sort of like the counterterrorism national police from France.
So where do you get these?
They're given to you, right? So like if you train like law enforcement or military, or if you're just friends with them, they give you these challenge coins, and they're typically, give me 1 second.
Sure.
Hold on, dude. Here, I got a couple more. This is going somewhere. This is going to FMA.
Okay.
So here's one from a Polish Special Forces unit, Formosa. It's like they're like Navy SEAL. This one is from.
So the idea. So how does it work? Like, if you were part of their training or you were there, they give you a coin.
Yeah, it's like a token of friendship. It's a token of like a connection, right? And I believe it was an old military tradition where, like, if you're sitting at a bar and then you slap your challenge coin down and you look at the person next to you, they need to produce their challenge coin and put it down. If they don't have their challenge coin, they owe you a drink. Like, that was the
no kid. Oh, how neat. Okay, that sounds all right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I got that lesson on challenge, because I honestly I don't even know if I even heard of it, but oh, wow,
Yeah,
that's
man, challenge coins are huge. Like Jared, because he's traveled all over, he's got like
Oh, you must have a ton, right?
he's got like Ziploc bags full of them, right?
Of
From his
challenge
police
coins.
department and that unit.
Yeah,
But,
right. Because you're talking about police departments, military,
yeah.
special. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys know. I'm sure some of you guys have
Yeah,
challenge.
I'm sure these guys in the comment section probably.
But
So
back to this challenge coin, right? You see, it's imperfect, right?
Look at that.
So I got this from a guy named Brian Canada. It's an attaboy, and Paulo 100% right about the bar game. Okay. So Ed Calderon, you've heard of him? He's been on the Joe Rogan podcast.
I definitely know of Ed Calderon. Yeah.
So Ed Calderon actually studies the science style Corta Cadena Largo Mano under Maya Soderholm.
Maya.
Right. Or with Maya. I'm not sure if it's under, but so I've met him a few times now. And then he's big on functionality. Like everything needs to be a tool first and a weapon second. Everything has to have a function. And so like these challenge coins, like other than this, morale, camaraderie, bargain, these things don't have a function. They don't serve a function.
Other than the potential drinking game?
Potential drinking game. So he's like, Paulo, I got a challenge form for you. And he gave me this. So it says how they're C and then no.
Wow.
Right. So it can be used to make decisions. Should I go?
God knows what decisions those might be.
Yes. No. And then there's also plata and plomo. And that is more or less lead, basically whether someone lives or dies.
They wouldn't have anything to do with the cartels, would it? No, I'm just kidding.
It does actually. But also,
that's the way it's from
challenge coin is made of pure silver.
Look at that. Yeah.
So it's currency. It has melt value.
You can actually
anywhere you go. I just thought that was cool, and the connection is with the science style guys. Yeah, he loves. He's big on knife work. And I've become, good friends with him. Spent some time with him again in SHOT Show. But I just want to share that. It's very cool.
Man. Yeah, definitely know of him.
Yeah. He's got, a lot of Filipino martial artists, like they like this like dark side of FMA, like this assassinative, criminal mentality, and it's there. It's definitely there. But what I like about Ed Calderon is it's relevant because it's on the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yeah.
And it's current. So we're not talking about, jungle tactics. We're talking
about relevant and it's happening every day.
Right. And so learning.
That's why people don't look at when they talk about Piper or the Latin America edge weapons. It's relevant and it's happening every day. You know what I mean?
Definitely important.
Yeah.
And another thing, I've made friends with the Libre guy who I was, sometimes I'm a little bit, critical of the offensive sequences. Just like,
there's so much Piper in there, I see, especially with Scott Babb when he's doing the frame out.
Yeah.
And there's Piper. Yeah.
I see those things as more or less the same thing. I'm sorry, but like Piper, Libre, Tripwire, like it's all based on that same philosophical idea. And recently I saw him doing defensive work, which I'd never seen before.
Okay.
And I'm like, and I just commented, and I was like, "Hey, man, that looks messy." And that's actually, I'm glad to see that you guys work, with
the chaos and mess.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, I know that this doesn't look as good as the other stuff on Instagram, but I just wanted to say, like, I acknowledge this.
It does, it's ugly.
It's hard to pull off those sequences really when you are honest about what how a human is going through.
going to do, or how are they going to move, how are they going to react, how they're going to recover, and all that.
Yeah.
And that's something that, if I had to make one fault of Piper, there's many things I like about Piper. Do I like everything? Of course not.
Yeah.
Do I embellish the criminal as element from it? Of course not. However, the other thing I don't like is that when you're coming in like this, and I mean, like you're going to assume they're still there. No, you're also making assuming that they're not freaking hitting you. So when I see guys doing major twirl and they're coming in and they're leaving this open, to me, I throw it out. You just got hit, or you should have got freaking hit. You know what I mean? So there's stuff in there guys do that I'm not a fan of. My students, get your damn cover up. If you're coming here, make sure something is covering. Don't leave this,
Yeah. I would actually love the opportunity to work with a Piper or a Libre guy and just do some, maybe it's behind closed door stuff, because I will respect like the whole, what we show out there, as far as branding and marketing, and people want to control the messaging. But I would like to see, because I think I can put myself into like a neutral mind state. Where, hey, do that sequence, and I'm just going to react randomly to it, and let's see how. Let's see how.
That's what we do.
The nature of your
That's what I do with my students. Anyhow, I say, okay, I'm going to give you a couple ways to enter. I want your guy to basically, he's going to count you coming in, and you're going to need, what So in other words, when you look at systems, what do they address? What do they address? What does Piper really address really well? Piper addresses really well getting in on chaos. Okay, what else is addressed? Getting to different parts of the body instead of the front. What else is addressed? Boxing in there, moving your head offline while you're moving and stabbing and all that. What else is addressed really well? The difference between linear and rotational distance and its equation to power, momentum, and if you stop it, you need to regenerate. So there's some things it addresses really, really well. There's some things there that I don't like, but I try to improve upon those things that I don't like.
Right. And principally, like the things that you mentioned, that's every FMA. Like you want to get tactically advantageous angles. You want to access vitals.
But what happened? It got so into the pattern drill. Like there's nobody telling me early FMA was not a bunch of just simple tactics like Piper. Yeah. You're trying to tell me those way back then when they were whoever they're fighting, the Spanish or whoever was coming in there. You're trying to tell me it wasn't just tactics. You're trying to tell me they had these, you know what I mean? It was tactics.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As always, Dan, I was able to join. It was just, don't worry, Alex. I'm going to download, post it, so it will definitely be up for or you can kind of just, I guess, watch it here. You should have an episode about inting. Do you know anything about that? I mean, besides hearing about it, which is basically.
Yeah. Well, I was in Sikihor Island a few years back, which is like the witchcraft and anting, mystical capital of.
There would be need to do a show on it. I just don't know who would be able to speak on it.
I'll tell you the long and short of it, from my opinion. Okay, I think it's bullshit.
Okay.
I think it's bullshit. But in saying that, I also believe that belief is a powerful thing. Belief,
whether it's that or just belief, period. Yeah.
Right. Whether it's faith in a God, in a sequence of letters,
an item, whatever.
Right. Right. I believe in our ability to self-heal. I believe in the power of belief. I think that is at the core of anting, is that it's not going to work if you don't believe in it. And even if you do believe in it, right, when push comes to shove, like, did you see that Filipino National Geographic thing where it was like he did this whole oracion. He took a very sharp machete and he chopped a banana tree, and then he did his whole magical thing. And there was a camera crew. Did you see this video?
I don't think so.
No. And then he was like, he proved that the knife was sharp, and he did his anting, like oracion, like these sacred chants that makes him impervious
to damage or anything, or infliction.
And he's like this. Boom! cuts himself, and then you can see like the sharp line, and then it open up, and oh my! I gotta send you this link, and you.
So in
see
other
this,
words, that got quickly debunked, huh? Oh.
You see this in other cultures too, like in Ed Calderon's class. Like you see a guy with, I think it was a Middle Eastern country. He had the giant curved blade, and he was like doing his chants, and then he went bang. He cut his back, and his whole back split open. Like, whoa! It was
disgusting. Yeah, and that's something you want to see. Obviously, is not. I mean, you want to see somebody just basically hack themselves based on something that they were told to believe in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's bullshit, but the power of belief is not. It's not.
That's what I mean. The power, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where those crossroads meet, I am unclear about that.
So that's a question in itself, right?
Yeah. But again,
well, maybe then it's not worth covering. I don't know.
He laughed so hard he straight up cut his arm. Yeah, these guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, if I could get somebody, Justin, that was worthy on speaking. Right now, I'm trying to get a Tapato guy and a few other things I think would be.
Can you imagine? You are about to enter like a consensual knife duel, right? Against a guy from a different village who dishonored your family, and you believe there was no way you could lose. That's a powerful thing, man.
Think about that, because you might do things, man, that you might maybe not do if you didn't believe.
Right. So that's a real powerful thing, but it's
a powerful tool,
right? Like, there's no way I'm losing this, and so you do things, and you maybe take risks.
It could lead to something interesting if I could really get somebody on there that really historically and had some witnessing and some that could speak on, as opposed to getting somebody on there just, I don't know. That might be worth pursuing, actually. I don't know.
The thing is, like, I don't know anyone. Oh, I know people.
I don't know either.
I know a bunch, but I don't think they would go on.
I think I wouldn't be surprised there'd be some resilience as far as coming out here and speaking openly.
Yeah, they wouldn't want to do that because,
that wouldn't shock me. Yeah.
Because it's like they can't explain it. It's not like they can be articulate.
No, it's not objective. I mean, how can they put it into like equate? Yeah, it's going to be so subjective.
Like a chemistry chart of the element.
You see these charts coming up, and on this day when the moon was half, we noticed that his powers.
Yeah, they'll just have stories.
Exactly.
One time, this guy. He cut my throat. He tried, but I had my anting with me. His knife was sharp, but he did not cut me. Oh, how do you explain that? How do you explain that? You calling me a liar? Like, that would be the nature.
I know. It's gonna be so I know. And then we're gonna and then the comment section. I can only imagine the peanut gallery.
They wouldn't. But if they believe in it, I'm not arguing with them. Like, I'm not trying
they're persuasive.
They would make their mind. So, yeah.
That and death matches. I have to cover death matches. Anybody who could give historical, on what occurred, how many actually, if there's any statistics on this or credibility, how many actually went to the full quote unquote death, or was there a bow out? Did they tap? Did they say no more? Did they put their hands over their head? I mean, what was you know what I mean? What was at stake here?
Right.
But then again, I think that's also going to open the door to folklore and storytelling and not much evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, now, I recently came across this very interesting thing, and I believe it was at the maybe Joe Rogan podcast or maybe another podcast, where I believe it's like young German Nazis would engage in dueling to get facial scars, and that was kind of like, it would almost be bragging rights in a
when they went back after World War II and they went back home.
Or just there's this culture in Germany where they would just get into these like saber sword duels where it would be like a badge of honor to get a facial scar. And like
To
the
have a
bigger it
facial scar.
is, the more bravado that it was meant to represent. It's super cool. You should look into it. You should look up like Nazi sword duel.
Nazi sword play,
Or like dueling scars.
or rite of passage.
Yeah, there we go.
Facial scar.
Schmies, that's what it's called. Badge of honor. Yeah, known variously as mensur scars. The
So we're talking about what, late 30s, 40s, early 40s? Okay.
As early as 1825.
25. Wow.
Yeah, as
okay.
early as 1825. And like these guys would go on to be like politicians, members of high society, army generals, and it's just cool. Like you see these guys with.
You can see that Hitler would see that and be like, "You're signed up."
Yeah, welcome. We have this idea.
Sure, no. Yeah.
It's this whole sword knife culture and how it manifested over cultures and time. It's very interesting.
And the patches are right, and what you had to do, or I know. It almost, I tell you, it's got, sometimes it gets pretty creepy, very creepy.
I got an idea for a future episode.
What's that?
You would have multiple guests, right?
Okay.
Maybe you and me, like we will stay, and then we'll cycle through multiple guests in one episode, and basically it would be show and tell on like our favorite knives and why we like them.
It's funny because I've done people who like TFW, other guys. I'm getting FMA. Oh my God, Miguel. The name is escaping me, of course. Guy in California sells a lot of weapons. But at any rate, but that's a neat idea. Like, okay, what's your EDC? Why, why do you prefer this?
I think that would be super cool. I think
that would be.
I had,
yeah.
I met with a bunch of knife manufacturers at Shot, and I'm getting a whole bunch of knives sent my way. But I was just thinking about knife culture and the personal connection that man has with his blade. I think it would be really cool. I know a lot of you guys out there have massive knife collections. Wouldn't it be cool?
Massive, yeah. That would be like, yeah, that would. Then I would love. I would definitely would love to do that. Like, and basically, we would just find the who's who's of known collectors, and they would come on maybe like 15 minutes. Do their show and tell next,
Yeah. We'd be like, I like this.
Off the top of your head, do you know anybody that off the top of your head, far as like big collectors?
Bro, every Filipino martial arts practitioner who has been doing it for.
I'm probably like maybe like really high end or reluctant to take it out. You know what I mean?
No. Probably me. Like I have a lot of knives because of.
Well, okay. Well, we definitely would go through your, but anybody that beside yourself.
I mean, again, I think it's like every Filipino martial arts.
John Border. The first thing comes to mind just because we used to see his posts, and that's the only reason. Yes. He's an avid collector of knives, John Border. But outside of him, I know there's more. Okay.
Using a bit of logic here, the person who's going to have the most and most interesting would be an instructor who's been an FMA who travels and teaches seminars, because knives are often
gifts,
right?
Yeah.
So find those people.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like Bill McGrath.
I bet Tuan Bill would have a ton of knives. But Tuan Bill could talk like 30 minutes about one knife, and then we'll not do a full show.
No way. No.
I love Tuan.
Okay, Bill, but
yeah,
I was eating pizza with Tuan Guy. He showed me this.
Oh, he would talk about this clip, and he'd tell a story about like Eddie Johnson.
And I respect these guys.
I love it.
I respect Tuan Bill immensely, so I'm not making fun of him.
Buddies.
Okay,
buddies.
He's been on the show several times. Okay? You know?
Yeah.
If you think of it, I love the idea. I would definitely do it. If you think of anybody, again, I know this guy John Border, the Irish stick guy. I just know he's a ton of knives. You know what I mean?
No, we can just have a post on FMA discussion.
Or I could just, you know what? That's actually just make a query. Who would like to come on the show to discuss your exotic collection?
It should be this. Have somebody have your audience take a picture of their knife collection, right?
Or that.
Like I've seen Tuan Jack, for example, lay out all his knives, and there's one picture of all of his knives. And then the person with the most likes, we'll have them on.
Yeah, right. That's a good idea. Like, hey, if you're interested in coming on, showcase what you got, and we're gonna take a vote.
Yeah. I love knives. I love knives so much.
Yeah, I know. There's something. What is it about them, huh?
I think it's in our DNA, man.
You know what? You know who says that?
Who?
Guess who told me that? It's in your DNA. Guess.
Burton Richardson.
No.
Mark Denny. Tom Sotis.
Bingo.
Yeah, you know who told me that? Bastien. He's a knife maker.
Who's that?
Bastien.
Oh, knife maker? Okay, a knife maker told you that. Okay.
He's like, the connection between the man and his blade is ancient, bro. It's ancient.
The connection between a man and his blade.
Yeah. And I wrote about this fairly recently. It's like, man and his blade, and the thread that binds them is the person who made that blade. Like, what a beautiful trifecta. Like,
there's
the warrior, the blade, and the maker of the blade. Ooh.
I know, like some of them, like depending on what you want to spend. I mean, it's just crazy, man. I mean, some of these things are so high end, and there's, the ball bearing, this, that, the other thing,
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, what's here off the top of your head? Just off the top of your head. You don't think you can say the exact amount. What's the most expensive knife you have? Over $1,000?
Probably about that. Yeah, maybe no, I don't have say some. There's some are they're expensive because they're collector's items. Like they're
right.
$2,000. But retail, like anybody can get them at retail. Mid tech, probably $800-900.
Are they numbered? Like they made 100 and you got number 59 or something?
Yeah, I have as far as that goes, for me it's priceless. But I have prototype 000 of a few Bassinelli knives, for example.
Bassinelli, yeah.
But Jerry Hossam, I don't know if you've heard of him. Jerry Hossam, Ken Onion, these knife makers, Mick Strider, they just have
Mick Strider. I've heard Strider. Yeah.
So Strider knives can be really
I know they're it's unbelievable. Yeah, way over my pay grade.
Yeah, that would be a cool episode. Anyway,
let's do it. Yeah. Hey, again, as always, thank you so much. It was enjoyable, and I think the folks enjoyed it as well. So,
thank you guys. Sorry, Dean didn't get you.
No, I'll be in touch. And again, thank you despite the short notice. Appreciate it.
I'm always ready to go whenever you call me and you want to talk about these things. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, big thank you to you, and have a good rest of your night. Say hi to the family that I borrowed you for close to 2 hours. So.
All right, bro. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Peace. Boom.
All right, and that wraps up. I lost track. 370. Who is next? Maybe covering Tuan Jack and Coach Danny. They got a camp. I believe it's in Louisiana. Might be. I think we'll be covering that. And let me get my list here. Who else? A couple folks had a bump. Miguel Rubio, that's who I was trying to think about. That's the guy who sells weapons at West Coast. He will be coming on. It's just a matter of when. Tuesday night, Tim Hartman. We're going to look at the decades of Modern Niece. And he will be joined by somebody else. I'm in the midst of getting that going. And then after that, we'll be actually getting into February, whose list I'm going to be generating fairly shortly. But as always, guys, if you have suggestions on theme episodes or topics, I mean, please don't hesitate to message me. You know what I mean? I got a kind of a running there, but if something comes up that's really intriguing or interesting, I think the community will enjoy. I can always, move it ahead. So by all means, just send me a message. All right. Thanks for watching, jumping in. And next episode could be Friday, Saturday. If worst case scenario, Tuesday with Tim Martin, Minor and Niece, the decades. All right, folks.